Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm Wiso from FoodMexSource.com. This is an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football. Lots and lots to talk about today. We'll have a great discussion, great hour of all football and talks and news. But first, let's go to see our experts who are with us today, shaking things up. Starting off with Mr. Jason Marquez from Soccer Mexicana. Also, now with this forward-thinking blog here at FoodMex Source. Jason, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great. I'm happy to be back. I've stayed away as long as Cruz Azul's been losing, so
I noticed that actually. I thought,
yeah. I only show up when they win, so you probably won't see me for another few months after this one.
It's kind of
weird. I'm really like make this one work. You know, I'm gonna really jump in and say a lot of crazy things this time. So get ready for it.
Funny how we were trying to get Mr. Jason to come on, and nope, Cruz Azul is having a bad time. As soon as they win, he comes back in. So thank you, Jason, being able to. We'll go over to Cesar in California. Cesar, welcome to the show once again. Writer for ESPN FC. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I do that sometimes. You know, when I'm feeling a little bored, I'll send in an article or two over there. I'm doing well. Glad to be back. I was in New York last week.
You took a trips. You went to New York to a wedding.
Yeah.
We had you on the flight at 20,000 feet watching the Mexican Soccer Show. Could be recorded as being our highest elevated watcher.
So you can just say the highest, and then I'm like, well, I don't know.
In a way, I kind of was. I'm afraid of flying, so I had to take some muscle relaxants. So to be honest, I don't really remember most of the show. I was just kind of relaxed. But yeah, glad to be back. I wanted to point out really quickly in the YouTube chat, Wilito said, we no longer have Sablo Gigante. All we have left is the Mexican Soccer Show. So I'm glad to be here. Glad we're out there for all those people who no longer have Don Francisco. So.
Good. Be interesting. Maybe we can have like a chacal. There's somebody singing or someone says something, and then they're like, fuera.
Oh, that'd be said every 5 seconds, man. We would just have to do that constantly.
Mr. Tom Marshall, great week to be in Mexico. Obviously the Fiestas Patrias and everything was happening over there. You're in Guadalajara, Jalisco. How are you, sir?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I celebrated by going to the Lucha Libre, which was
nice.
Went to Cantina and then Lucha Libre with a friend from England. So good times. And as usual, what's going on in Guadalajara with Chivas, and I don't know. It's a big few weeks now for Mexican football. With obviously. We're going to get a new coach for the national team. We've got the Clásico Nacional this weekend. And then, obviously, the big one, United States against Mexico, which is, you can feel it already starting to kind of grind into gear, all the hype. So, yeah, it's good times.
Interesting that you note, obviously, lots of things that are happening with Mexico and Mexican news. I wonder if, in the mainstream media, like a lot of things are going to happen with Mexico. I'm talking about, over Europe, they're like, the Mexico versus the U.S., the Clásico Mexicano. You'd be amazed how many people are actually watching one of the 5 top leagues, right, supposedly. But lots and lots and lots to talk about today. If you're joining us from a cell phone, from a computer, you're able to access the chat. Come join us on the chat. Lots of things going on. Guelitos already starting off with saying, Sábado Gigante is gone. Come join us. A lot of people are pointing out that this is the Monday Night Football. I mean, let's be honest. Monday Night Football, American
Monday Night Football. Yeah, most definitely.
But this is Monday Night Football. So I like it. Maybe we should just change it. Monday Night Football with Mexican Soccer Show. I wonder if that's a trademark or something. Probably. We get sued by the NFL or something like that. But lots and lots of stuff going on the chats. Marco Medina, Ivan Fernandez, already talking about our hair and what we look like. Where's the TV? Lots of fun and a lot of discussion. There are 25 already people on the chat. So inviting you, if you're on your cell phone and you get to a computer, come join us. Ask your questions there. But enough about the chat. Let's go ahead and start the show. What do we have for today, guys? What's around in the news?
Emmy nominations.
What's everyone's talking? Emmy nominations.
We're talking about Emmy night, right? John Hamm finally won for Mad Men.
After 40 times being nominated. Yeah, I was watching that. Definitely see this show. But today's just not Mexican soccer show. It could be Mexican food, Mexican dogs, Chihuahuas, Mexican women, Mexican men. Someone's eating chips on the chat during the show. I don't know if that's Tom.
Me, you're just throwing a bit of a barra.
But topics for today, very, very important. We'll go with El Tri, then talk about Liga MX, a little bit of Chivas talk, and then hopefully, if we have some time, a little bit of Europeos and what's happening with them and all around the leagues. But it should be a very, very fun show. Join us right now on the chat, like we said. But let's go ahead and get started. Mexico and the United States in a couple of weeks already. We've already seen a list come out, but the news that has been haunting the Twitter world that has came out today from PSV's Twitter that Andrés Guardado will be out for 4 to 6 weeks. Everybody already commenting. A lot of people saying, CONCACAF's probably best player, Keylor Navas, is definitely there. But if we have to say someone that had part of the best summer for Mexico would be Andrés Guardado, someone that is the captain of the Mexican national team, being down, especially against a very, very important U.S. game where it'll give us the ticket to the Confederations Cup. Go down to you guys, Mr. Cesar Hernandez, Andrés Guardado as the captain, as being, you saw the penalties that he did in the Gold Cup, his composure, not being able to play against the U.S., and not only that, and not able to travel because of his leadership. How big is this blow for Mexico? As many were calling it probably the worst player to get injured from now until for the Mexico game.
I think the problem with that situation is it's not just Guardado. It's the fact that Rafa Marquez is also apparently injured. Who knows how long he'll be out for? Hopefully he'll be able to come back. But I think with him and Guardado out, and then if you think about it, I mean, who was the second best player in the Gold Cup? You would say it'd be Jonathan Dos Santos. Right now, there's no guarantee that Jonathan Dos Santos is going to be a starter next month. I think it'd be kind of crazy if Tuca were to leave him out of the roster, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Jonathan didn't get too many minutes next month. So I think with all three of those players out, I think it really makes things a little troubling for Mexico. I do have a little hope with Guardado coming back. I mean, we saw earlier today, I believe it was on Instagram, it was a post of him training, and he said he's going to try to be back as soon as possible. And as Tom was saying when we were talking beforehand, we're going to there's going to be a kinesiologist, and we just talked about how we don't know how to correctly pronounce kinesiologist, so I'm hopefully pronouncing that right. He's going to be going out there to Europe to see if we can hopefully have Guardado back as soon as possible. But even if he were to be healthy, even if he's healthy a week beforehand, there's still those worries about how match fit he really will be. So there are definite worries. Luckily for Mexico, I think we have the players to replace Guardado, the players to replace Rafa. So I think we'll be okay. You look like a player, like for example, Jonathan Dos Santos, hopefully could be there. Even Carlos Peña. I think Carlos Peña would be a fantastic fit, in his
Carlos
position.
Peña in the 32 list?
Yeah.
He definitely is. Yeah. So I'd
argue that it's a step down. Those players, I don't think you can rely on Peña. I think Jonathan Dos Santos. Yeah, we had a good Gold Cup, but and I think he played well the other day for Villarreal. But he's not getting in the team there either. I think with Guardado, you've had Mexico's best player by far of 2015, and a guy who's not just played well, but he's stepped up into a captaincy role, and he's become the spokesperson for the team. And I think it's a massive blow if he's not there. And even if he is there, will he be fit? There's always going to be those doubts. Honestly, for me, I wrote on Twitter today, if one player, arguably, he's the most important player now. I'd say the other one's Hector Moreno, but arguably is I don't know. I think he's going to be very difficult to replace. Honestly, do I just think the rest of them are a little bit of a step down.
Yeah.
But that's not saying, Cesar, that Jonathan Dos Santos can't come in and do it, because we saw in the Gold Cup that he can. But I just think Guardado right now in the form he's in is a guarantee, and that's what you want from these players, especially in going ahead to a massive game like against the US.
Injuries. It feels like in every competition that we've had in 2015, someone has gotten injured, and not just a player, but some of the top players. Chicharito with a broken collarbone, and now Guardado, Hector Moreno, Carlos Vela also has some kind of injury. Talking about kinesiology and exercise science, what's going on with the federation and all these? Because it feels like it's either practices, Massa Rodriguez. It'd be interesting to note how many people have gotten injured with the Mexican national team. And I know Andrés Guardado got injured during practice at PSV, but injury, something's going to happen with what it is. Jason, to you, Guardado in the midfield. Now, we've seen, obviously, in the Gold Cup of what he can bring, but I saw Guardado in front of Rafa Marquez, and then also with Hector Herrera and Gallito Vasquez work wonders is what we saw in the World Cup, and I feel that's our strongest mid right there. With Guardado coming in, I know Jonathan Dos Santos is a likely, but Jonathan Dos Santos hasn't played with Tucas Ferretti and Tuca Ferretti, and I don't even know if he's going to make the final list. But who's your immediate backup for Guardado? Güemes moving somebody back in there, or?
No, I don't think there. I mean, there's no clear replacement for Guardado because no one can do what Guardado's doing right now. I mean, he's been owning the entire field for Mexico. He's all over the place. I mean, he's not just sitting back and controlling possession. He's moving forward so much as well. So it's not like we could just plug in one of those defensive midfielders and say, okay, beat Guardado. That's not going to happen with how he's been playing. So there's no clear replacement. I mean, it comes down to, I think, Tuca having to figure out a different way of setting up. The position could look completely different. Just looking at the midfield, I mean, I would assume, you look at putting in someone like a Jonathan Dos Santos in the defensive midfielder, or if Gallito's back there, and then you're looking at other more attacking options in front of them. But it could be a complete change, but there is no clear replacement for him. I mean, Tom mentioned you guys mentioned Peña and even a Luis Montes, those guys could come in, but just massive step down. I think those guys, I think Peña is the clearest Guardado replacement for me, but
I think the other name is Esquivel. I mean, he's just going through an absolutely amazing little spell with the national team, and even against Trinidad and Tobago, he scored the goal, and I think I'm right in saying he set one up as well. He's having a really good little period here. 33 years old, nobody expects him to be there, but it won't surprise me if out of all those players that Ferretti goes with Esquivel if Guardado's not there.
That would be probably the replacement, because if we look at Guardado, doesn't really do that much in this defensive role. When he does get into the defensive mid, you kind of lose that spark from Guardado moving the ball forward. So I would think maybe an Esquivel coming from the sides and going towards the middle. Gulit Peña, I would think, especially if we haven't seen him in the rhythm. But yeah, I would see, especially what he's been doing with Tuca with Esquivel, and especially what you're saying, Tom.
Yeah, but and the other one is a bit of a risk. It would be. But something that Miguel Herrera tried was Tecatito, playing him there. He's a guy who looks like he's in form. He wasn't. I didn't think he was the best in the Clásico in Portugal, but he's somebody who he's on the up, he's on the rise. He's someone who's going to create your chances without doubt. It's someone that the United States will be definitely worried about if he's in there. So maybe Ferretti. I think he's pretty conservative as a manager and very pragmatic. But maybe he throws him in there. Maybe he throws. Güemes and Gallito, and then you put Tecatito in kind of a free role, and you say, right.
I think it all depends on the formation too. I think. Yeah.
I'm assuming the 5-3-2.
Yeah, I think he'll stick with the 5-3-2. That's why he did it against Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, because if we're saying I think if we go to a 4-4-2, I maybe even that would be a little better, because then you could fit someone like Jonathan Dos Santos and Peña into the system. You could have Peña, working right above Gallito, and you can have Jonathan Dos Santos as the right mid. So I think it all depends on the formation as well. But if we're sticking to a 5-3-2, then maybe that's when you start asking a few more questions. But as Tom said, maybe someone like Tecatito. I think I believe in Tecatito's debut for Mexico. I forget which game it was exactly, but when he switched into
Netherlands,
yeah, when he switched into that 5-3, when he was put into one of those central mid positions, he had an assist within a matter of seconds in that match. Yeah, so I mean, we'll see. But I think in the end, though, are we, even if it's Montes, even if it's Peña, wouldn't you guys think that this is still enough to beat the United States when you look at the U.S. roster? I'm worried, but
Mexico still has enough talent to beat the U.S., but they're just not as good. I mean, you lose Guardado. I don't really the Marquez thing is debatable because you want him there as an option, but
if there's a team that's okay to miss Marcus would be if it's a team that Marcus is coming to play, it would be against the U.S. I'm like, okay.
Right, that's true.
For some reason, I just feel like Marcus really takes the heart of the Mexican soccer and just puts it in there and just goes, I'm going to give it all for all the time since 2002. He carries a lot of baggage from it.
He's also going to say, I'm going to get a red in the first 10 minutes.
In the red card, but I know Marcus was our best player against Argentina. I liked what Marcus did as soon as he got out and discipline he did. But when I saw that against the U.S., I'm like, well, it's not we've seen Marcus. So, but at the same, sorry, Jason, but
yeah, but going back to what Cesar was saying about the formation, I think that more than Guardado, I think that if Marquez isn't there, then I think at the minute Ferretti, after seeing that against Argentina, and obviously the players are used to it. He's used the same core that Miguel Herrera used, and pretty much the same system. So I think that the problem comes if Rafa Marquez is out, because I don't think it works as well. Mexico don't have that player who can read the game, who can step up when required, move back when required. And at the end of the day, I know he gets a lot of criticism, but in that Argentina game, he played like he was like 26 again. So it was absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And he's spraying those balls down as well, which gives the attacker a real advantage. So I think that if Marquez is out, and I tend to think he won't be, but we've got to wait for the test from Hellas Verona and see what they're saying. But if he's out, then you look at the options.
How's their kinesiology?
I don't know. Maybe Mexico's got a spare one.
From the chat, Kevin Hernandez mentioned we kind of.
What was that? I think we lost you for a second there, Weasel.
Lost Weasel. But going back quickly to the
Argentina.
Oh.
Coming
in and out, Weasel.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry about that. With the chat, Kevin Hernandez was saying we saw this in Argentina, moving Layun up to the Guardado and having Torres Nilo on the left could work a little bit.
That's a good idea. Yeah,
and we did see Tuca kind of play around with that. I thought Guardado's spot was kind of was wasted. I don't think he did that great coming back towards the middle and recovering the ball, especially after Gallito kind of left. But other than that, Layun can take that, and what we saw over the weekend, and we've seen him in that position when we saw him in Watford, that could also be an option. So that's coming from
I think that's a legitimate option. That I really do. I think Layun's got the experience as well, and Peña at the end of the day is playing really well now. But I think I don't trust his consistency. I don't trust his big game, I don't trust him just walking in there and not having been with the squad for so long and kind of stepping up. And I trust Montes more, to be honest, But yeah, Layun, and then just quickly, just moving back to the centre back position. And if Rafa Marquez is out, if you want to play that back three, the three centre backs, the options, assuming it's going to be Moreno, Reyes, and Rafa Marquez, those are the kind of like, if everybody's fit, those three would be. Then the options are Alanis, not been in the best form of late since joining Chivas, although he did have a decent game yesterday. La Palmera Rivas, Miguel Herrera from Pachuca. I mean,
Miguel Herrera was okay when he was in the Mexican team.
Yeah, but I mean, that's. I think looking at that, Ferretti would be like, right, I'm going to a back four. I'm going to put Moreno next to Reyes. I'm going to put Moreno next to Reyes, and we'll go with Torres Nilo or Layun and Aguilar, or like that.
No, that's actually why I think Rafa is the 5-3-2. I think he is that key player. I think before, we tried experimenting before, the team tried experimenting beforehand with different players in that Rafa position, but no one could truly take over that role that he did. And as much as we want to move past Rafa, and I feel like we've been talking about moving past Rafa for so long, but every time we doubt the guy, he ends up having a fantastic performance. He just it's difficult.
I doubted him in the what was the wow. Okay, so there was a cup in South America this summer, and and my brain stopped working. I doubted him there, and he failed to perform. It was
did he play?
So
I think he was hurt.
He played, didn't he?
I think he played the first game.
At least in some of the warm-up games.
No, I think I don't think he ended up playing, and I think.
Well, all right, just ignore the things I'm saying now.
No, Rafa is confused. That's a normal reaction, Jason. That's a normal. You're trying to figure out how Rafa's good, and then you just kind of freak out. You're like, I don't know how I can really justify saying he's a good player.
Guys, Paul, I guess apparently we're having some technical difficulties on the chat. I guess I was lost. Something about being a pirated chat. From the chat, this choppy podcast is like the Pirateria movie where you can hear people coughing and getting up to the bathroom. Sometimes, we can't handle that. There's a storm going off. Maybe my Wi-Fi isn't working. But hang in there, guys. Thanks for keeping us on the loop on things. But
we're the Rafa podcast. We do.
We talk about Rafa, and this is what happens.
But yeah, no, like Tom was saying, I think it all depends on Rafa. I think if he's healthy, we stick with that 5-3-3. If not, if he's not healthy enough, then we should stick with that 4-man back line and just have Moreno and Reyes as the two center backs back there.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
Funny how we're still depending on that. Having those four.
Hey, wait up! I've got something to say quickly. This is a little tiny bit off topic, but we're talking about centre backs and who's going to replace Rafa. I think this weekend, I was watching a lot of games, and there's a few centre backs out there, really young Mexicans, who I think have got a good chance. And what's he called? Victor Milke from Querétaro. I know he scored an own goal, but it was
I was going to say, he scored an own goal, Tom.
Yeah.
He also scored at the other end.
He's on the bench of my fantasy team, Tom. He's on the bench.
Take the own goal, and he's okay. It was great this weekend.
But he scored at the other end as well, so it cancelled it out. So, but he's only 20. He's a big guy, really big kid. Carlos Salcedo, who we know about with Chivas. Cesar Montes put an unbelievable ball through to Funes Mori from Monterrey's goal. He looks like a real quality. And I like the Jordan Silva at Toluca as well. And they're all like under 21. So we've been searching for this. Who's the next centre backs? And I think we've got like 4 there who have got a chance at least.
And who are other centre backs on the list of 32?
Miguel Herrera, La Palmera Rivas.
Alanis.
Random prediction here, but I wouldn't be so surprised if Rivas gets Alanis' spot as a backup in the final roster. Random thing. I don't know. It's just he scored, and he did it. He's doing a really good job with Tigres, and he has a whole Tigres connection with Ferretti. So, and Alanis isn't exactly the most exciting player right now this season. So I think
he messed up as well, didn't he, against Trinidad? I mean, big time.
Yeah.
That goal. I mean, he really did mess up there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too surprised if we see Rivas in the roster, the final 21-man roster on October 1st.
21? Not 23?
Or 23. Yeah, my bad.
Like, man.
Hey, you got the 30-man thing wrong earlier today. So
not on the chat. Not on the podcast. We correct each other when we have our little preview show. Aside from obviously the injuries, and hopefully there still could be a possibility that Guardado and Rafa are back. But again, how match fit are they? But even if they're there, Rafa and Guardado bring in the leadership what they have. The captain, I could just see another maybe Carlos Vela coming back and captaining against the U.S. If both are not there, who knows? As far as the players that were mentioned, we talked about it here before the Argentina game in a couple of podcasts, and then afterwards also with Jonathan Dos Santos and Giovanni Dos Santos and Memo Ochoa being left off the list, and now they're back on this preliminary provisional list, however you want to call it, with Tuca. There you go, Tom and Cesar. I know we mentioned that we probably weren't going to go. We're going to see, Gio, and not to keep dragging this drama of what it is, but they're back on, and it looks like actually, well, I guess it doesn't look like, we don't know, but I'm pretty sure they're going to make the 23-man list. Tom?
Yeah, I'd bet on them doing it, being on there, just because I think Ferretti at the end of the day is a pragmatist, and he wants his best players, and if you're 1-0 down, 15 minutes to go, then Giovanni's the kind of player you wanna throw on there, and Jonathan's versatile. He gives you options. He can play different positions, and I think that's useful to have. And at the end of the day, they're both in the top 23 players in Mexico. So
yeah, well, we've been saying that they are calling in, especially after Peralta got hurt and Gio's still not making it. So the statement of why not use him in the Trinidad and Argentina game, because he just didn't want to say the real reasons, and then now calling him up and everything's okay. Just kind of interesting the way that Tuca kind of.
I mean, it definitely looks that way. It looks like that's what's happened, that they have been punished, and the only thing that would make me think that that's not the case is if they're not on the final list, which would be strange.
I think they'll make the final list, but I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get very many minutes.
Fine, you want me to call you, but you're not going to play? Is this what you want?
Yeah, especially Gio, and I think Ochoa, poor guy. That guy is not getting any minutes at all whatsoever. Like at least until.
If his hair was the only thing going for the guy, now he cut it. He's got nothing.
He's got the Copa del Rey whenever that starts.
No, yeah, I think it's December or something. I mean, honestly, Ochoa's career in the last couple of years has been absolute, since the World Cup, an absolute disaster. I mean,
Over 1 year, and he has yet to make his La Liga debut.
that's just, and he's not like
He isn't
23-year-old goalkeeper anymore. It's like, he's hitting 30 or he's not already 30.
I think he's.
He's just 30, isn't it?
And that's another thing I don't get. Ochoa, calling up Ochoa, I mean, Ochoa's probably not going to make the 30 list. I mean, I wouldn't think he would. Oh, unless you do need 3 keepers for it.
Yeah,
Maybe.
3 keepers, yeah.
They'll probably
Yes.
kick out Orozco and keep Ochoa as the third option, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just going to be between Talavera and Munoz.
But then the thing is, I mean, the other theory is that, you bring these players in and they're not playing and, are they going to be happy? You know what I mean? So, if he knows Giovanni Dos Santos is not going to play, that he prefers, he likes Raul Jimenez and Chicharito up front, and he knows that he's got Vela and, Tecatito there and Peralta, and he knows that, Giovanni's going to be the third option up front off the bench, then is it worth it? I think that's the only other rational kind of conclusion, but it's pushing it. It's pushing the boundaries here. It's almost surreal, like the things you have to come up with when you cover Mexico.
Well, from the chat, Ochoa hasn't been scored on in a really long time.
Well, he's not been scored at all in La Liga. It's incredible.
We're all talking about Keylor Navas having so many, having the record now, and
I'd love for Ochoa just to tweet that out. Munoz, goals conceded. Talavera, goals conceded. Ochoa, third person. 0.
Hilarious. And then, well, it wouldn't be a show if we don't talk about, especially everyone's mind, on what's happening with Mexican national team and the suits and the FMF and everybody who has their hands in the pocket of the FMF, of especially money-wise, with the national team coach. The conversations, I still believe, I think Cesar is with me, maybe Tom, that one day, Justinio, that Decio Maria will come in and say we have Bielsa, and we've been secretly talking to him, but it doesn't look like it. More rumors that were coming on, especially today. Tom and I we were talking about in the previews with Juan Carlos Osorio. For those of you probably are like, well, who? Yeah, he's not very internationally known, as if you don't know the MLS, if you don't know Colombian football. And even then, I still had to kind of remember if it was the same Osorio that was coaching, I think, Chicago Fire in Puebla for what, a couple games?
Yeah, like 7 games, I think.
Yeah, for 7 games. So I even had to go back. This isn't the same Osorio and when he did. So let's have a conversation, because this is no longer a rumor, Tom. From what your sources and you're hearing, there are conversations with Osorio. He isn't a Mexican-born, obviously, coach. And the rumors are strong, from what you're hearing, that they're ready to sign him this week. Juan Carlos Osorio, who has done what? Tell me, Tom, please. Give us some hope. If this is a guy that is ready to take the national team to another level.
Well, I mean, El Universal reported it yesterday, and then John Sutcliffe was talking on the ESPN radio today saying it. So it looks like it might happen. I mean, the other thing is that I've not heard any other names. I mean, it's just not normal. Like, at
the same time, everyone out there, we've already gone through all the names. La Volpe was ready to sign. Tuca was ready to sign. Bielsa after that was ready to sign.
Yes, and now nothing. So I don't know. Osorio, I don't know. I mean, he's got a good reputation in terms of like he's somebody that people in the game actually respect, And then you look at his record in MLS, it's poor. It wasn't the best. Do you know what I mean? You look his win ratio, it's not the best. Then but with Atlético Nacional in Colombia, he had a really, really good team, and it was really exciting as well. I remember, I think it was the Libertadores one year, a couple of years ago now, and they were really, really good to watch. They're by far my favorite team in that particular competition. But it's he's struggling a little bit with Sao Paulo at the minute. I mean, I think they're in 5th in the league, and I think they've not got much chance of making the Libertadores. I think they're 15 points behind the leader. So, he's been saying today that he's going to focus on the cup. Now, I don't know. I mean, I think for the Mexican national team coach, you want somebody who's on the up, or at least knows the kind of Mexican game. It's a difficult one. I think that it'd be underwhelming if it was Osorio. And
Right.
and I think the other thing is though, no matter how good he is or bad he is or whatever, is he going to be giving time? I mean,
Well, yeah. I mean,
because
that could be
Osorio's name is not going to, the press are going to be after him. Like lose a couple of games, they're going to be absolutely after him. Whereas with Bielsa, they'd be like, oh, this guy's proven he can, you know. And Osorio hasn't done that. Let's be honest, he's not done that apart from with Atlético Nacional, and that's in his home country.
And at the same, I mean, I'm just laughing at the fact that he would even be a conversation just because he's coached outside of Mexico, but in lower level leagues. I'm sorry to say, the Colombian league, and I think he was even ready to go with. I mean, with Honduras. I think Once Caldas was a team that he coached, and then obviously 3 teams in the MLS with the Chicago Fire, or 2 teams, and then somebody else, New York.
Red Bulls.
But I mean,
Red Bulls.
was the Red Bull having the worst start in Red Bull's like history by that then? I mean, this isn't a coach that has won even a title, or correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. Has he won any titles in his career?
I think in Colombia, I'd have to check that though.
With the
But it's Colombia.
No, which okay, at least he's won something, you know. But if he couldn't do it with the MLS,
That's not
he's
what we're
running
looking
around.
for. The Mexican nationals, like, oh, you've won something.
No, but I
Come on
to say
down.
he's a winner in some kind of ways. But I'm trying to look for something. As far as his study, I know he did study and I know in the United States he knows English. He went and I think got some kind of degree of professional FIFA coaching degree in I think somewhere in Europe. So I mean I think he's got that down. But I just don't see how they're looking for someone like him. I don't know.
I mean, I think he's won 4 titles in Colombia actually.
Okay.
You know, in the space of like a few years. So you know, he has done really well. But it's like since that, you know, 2014 when he left Atlético Nacional, you know, he's gone on to Sao Paulo, and it's, I don't know. I mean, it's not gone great from there. He's only been there since like last May. So I don't know. It would be a strange one. I'm not going to lie. I mean, you know, I'm looking here. He was actually in charge of Puebla for 11 games, and he won twice. Now, you know, Puebla for me are possibly the worst organized team in the Liga MX, along with Chiapas. I mean, so for him to accept that job says one thing, and then the other, you know, he's out after 11 games. It's, you know, I don't know. I mean, you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but a lot of people in Mexico won't. Fans won't. And there's no way they will. They want a manager who's been there, done it, and can a proven record.
And that just goes to show that if it's a Juan Carlos Osorio that gets this job, I mean, if we are hiring someone like him, that there wasn't that many options. Tom, you and I off the record were talking about, hey, people think that there's a lot of people lining up for the El Tri job. There isn't. If they do go with a Juan Carlos Osorio, I would rather have La Volpe, Tuca, I mean, Vucetich, you know, before that, I think, because of they've coached, they've seen, they know the Mexican player, but I guarantee you they would go through all those first. I think that the MF would do that before going with a Juan Carlos Osorio, which is
these are all rumors. These are all rumors in the end, though. There's nothing confirmed. We don't know. There have been so many other. We've had so many other rumors in the past couple of months. I think that's something to keep in mind. But if it is Osorio, I mean, when I heard that, I couldn't help. I mean, Tom was he's made a lot of great comparisons from Club de Cuervos, you know, the Netflix show, between that and Chivas. And that was the first thing that came to mind when I was thinking about Osorio, you know, joining FMF, you know, joining as the Mexican national team manager, where there was an episode where just like they're trying to sign manager after manager, like, and that, you know, they're trying to like remain calm in the presence of the media and say like, no, it's fine, blah blah, we're gonna have a manager coming soon, but you know that there's no manager who wants to join. And when you look, I mean, if you are a big time manager, if you look at the record of the FMF and just how fickle they have been with, you know, how long these managers have lasted the national team, it would probably scare you away. Like, I mean, why would you want to join? Why would it seems like it'd be a huge risk to be joining the Mexican national team. So I couldn't help but think of, you know, that one episode of Club where just like no one would want to join the Mexican national team. Like, why? If you're a rational human being, why would you ever want to join the Mexican national team? So
yeah, I mean, I think you'll get people coming for money. I mean, you know, I think, but then again, is that that's not what you want. I mean, you want people coming because they can.
They want to further their career. They want to make the next step.
Or at the end of the career, where they kind of,
I think
absolutely make something of my last stint here. But ideally, like I said before, we could go on to chat a bit about Mexican managers, but how many are there in the league right now?
Exactly.
And how many are there in Europe? I mean, you've only got, a handful of Mexican managers anywhere in the world managing.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've seen that there's a shortage of managers in Mexican managers, especially because of you see a Colombian, you see other managers in other countries that their own are coming up to the ranks. And having a conversation with Twitter with Soccer Chronicles Jolie, and it was very long, extensive for a whole day. I mean, we're missing that with those managers that are coming up in the ranks. A Nacho Ambriz is probably the only one that from that generation in the 90s, late 80s, that should be a coach right now, because of the media and all the influence that coaches just take off, and instead of going to coaching, they go into Televisa, and they're there. Those players that didn't want to go be coaches because it doesn't pay as well. So there aren't any coaches.
Well, it doesn't see that. No, I mean it pays really well. If you're a first division coach in Mexico, you're making really good money. But I mean, there's no job
there.
There's no stability.
Oh, somebody's paying you a check to be in the Televisa, broadcast with Martinoli, or look at Jorge Campos. He was with La Volpe, and after 2006, bam, he didn't continue that coaching career where he could have kind of taken off and taken a smaller team, maybe a second division team, and keep going because the TV pays too much. And look at all the broadcasters that are there. There's usually some player, and it's that generation of players, Borghetti, that are part of ESPN or
But honestly, I don't think it's money because these guys can make money. I just think that being a coach, what's the reward?
Right.
In Mexico.
But that's what you used to do. Look at all the coaches that were in the 1986, Aguirre, Chepo. All of our coaches have played sometime in their lives. Maybe not the greatest players, but they made that step into the coaching. But now it looks like we don't do that. Players don't.
They're all seen as washed up at this point. I mean, they've all had a job at like 3 teams and have been fired after 2 or 3 months, and are just seen as washed up. No teams are willing to hire these managers at this point because they're seen as washed up. The fan bases would just groan if one of these guys that was off the recycling heap was hired, although they've never had a real chance to build a team to really develop their own squad. Like these things don't happen. There's no job security, as Tom mentioned, and they're fired after a couple of months. So we don't know if any of these managers would ever have gone on to become a great manager because they never really had a chance to develop and become that. So, there's not a lot of managers coming through because why would you? It's crazy.
So I asked what happened to that generation of coaches, the Piojo generation, and then there isn't anybody. I mean, Paco Palencia, that generation, the 90s, 94s, 98s, the Luis Hernandez generation, where they should have started already coaching, and there isn't anybody. Nacho Ambriz is probably the only one.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a case of that generation or anything like that. I just think that it's difficult. There's only 18 teams in the first division, and club owners at the minute are tending towards foreigners. I mean, look at Chivas. That's a classic example. They fired one of the most successful Mexican managers over the last decade. Since he won the title with Chivas. If they fired him and they brought a guy in who's got basically a handful of games in Argentina's first division, I mean, I'm not saying Almeida's not a bad coach. There's no way he might turn out to be brilliant for Chivas, but I think that encapsulates a certain mentality that exists. I don't know. I mean, it's not going to be popular what I say now, but I think that I interviewed Enrique Mesa about a month ago now, and he was talking about, he freely admitted that Mexican coaches are very comfortable. So when they get into these jobs, they're very comfortable. They're making good money. Once you get into that kind of treadmill and you go to one team and the next team and then the other team, and you do all right for yourself. And I think Mexican coaches at some point have to look outside of Mexico. There's no opportunities here. Go somewhere else. Put yourself out there. Miguel Herrera now. For me, he should be going abroad. He should be taking something abroad. He should be experiencing a whole different way of playing, a different of living football. And then in 10, 15, 20 years even, not 20 years, I think, about 10, 15 years, he should be coming back to Mexico, and there's no reason why he couldn't take Mexico over again, but with, a wealth of more experience. But Mexican managers don't do that. Vucetich has won everything multiple times in Mexico. Chepo, very well respected outside of Mexico, but they stay here as well. So from a certain point, I honestly think that they do take some blame, and Aguirre is the only one who's gone out of that.
If you look at the current list of Mexican coaches too, do you really let's see, Nacho Ambriz, Sergio Bueno, Mesa, Memo Vasquez, Chepo. Like, can you really imagine any of those guys going over? Maybe Vucetich, but other than that, can you really imagine any of those Mexican managers going abroad?
That's why everybody. Yeah, that's why there's a whole gap of coaches that are not. They're old. Not that there's anything wrong with age, but there are no young coaches like we see somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're all coming from Argentina.
Yeah, and the same
Colombia.
interview with Enrique Meza, I asked him, who are the young kind of bright coaches, Mexican coaches that we should be looking out for, and he was like, Miguel Herrera is good, Memo Vasquez is good. And I was
we're looking at Nacho Ambriz is 50, Sergio Bueno 53, Ojitos Mesa 67, Busa 60, Memo Vasquez is 48. The youngest coach, Mexican coach, Memo Vasquez is 48.
I guess Memo Vasquez has some promise, but it's only because he's been doing well with Pumas this season. But beforehand, I don't know. I don't know. It's difficult to really say. I just can't. I can't imagine any of these coaches going abroad.
But think about it. Memo Vasquez wins Pumas. Maybe another year wins another one with Pumas and takes an Almeria, kind of like what Hugo Sanchez did. And that's what they need to do is make that abroad to see that type of football and what they do. But it's just not happening. I guess. And I know we want to blame the players but Jason says it. They get sacked. They don't have a let's say Memo Vasquez wins Pumas with this year and has a bad season for next year and there is the new promotor already saying that the next greatest Argentine coach that are coming out from Millonarios or he's going to make it in Mexico. So I think it's all of it, but at the same time I just keep looking to see what young coaches are out there that could have done something but decided for me go into broadcasting instead of becoming a coach.
Yeah, but I think it's the whole system here in Mexico as well. I mean, for me, I find it ridiculous that the relegation system, and I'm mentioning that because if you've got a strong second division where teams have got a really good chance of getting promoted if they're good enough. I'm talking about not a Liguilla for the second division. So if you've got a team who finishes top in like a season that lasts for 9 months, so that the best team then I think you'll develop more coaches from the second division. And at the minute, it's kind of like closed off. There's no kind of promotion and relegation of players or coaches. You don't see many coaches move from the second to the first division. You don't see many players even. I mean, I know there are a few, but you don't see many. And I think that's an area that the Mexican game. I mean, this isn't the United States. It's not kind of a developing football country where we've got to like protect this, protect that. No, it's a massive country. There's a lot of big towns as well. And I mean, I think the second division needs to be strengthened and even go to a third division and a stronger, have a stronger process where the people can actually move up. So if you've got a really good young coach, maybe a second division club would risk hiring him. He may be 35 years old, and then all of a sudden get them near promoted. Sorry, I don't know. It's just a table. I mean, it's one of many things that there are problems with in Mexico right now. But I do agree that it really is a problem right now that there aren't coaches coming through. It really is.
Jolie on the chat, he does actually bring up a good point with El Potro Gutierrez. So I mean in the end that's still just one, and he's only had experience with just the youth players. So I mean that there is him. He's just one coach who's had success with the youth national team. But other than that, like Thomas said, it's just it is a little worrying to see like what other options we have when it comes to.
I would think that young. I like the fact that Potro's staying with the young. I feel if you have a great processor and they're doing well, and I think he knows what he's doing, unless having somebody that's been there with him for a long time than him making the move, because what we did with what is his name who won the sub-17 in Peru in 2005.
Who? Yeah, he just had a special on Univision.
I mean, like
he was in Peru looking at the stadium. It's like, yeah.
I mean, if you really look at what he did, he went to America and that's it. Where is he? I mean, it's I feel like it's a big.
Chucho Ramirez, no?
Yeah, Chucho Ramirez. So I mean, it was a big jump for him to make, and didn't even I think he was interim with Mexico for one game. But I feel like if you're going to be in the youth, really be there. But yeah, Potro Ramirez, Potro, and what he's doing. So.
But my worry with him, it's the same. Remember that what was it called? Jesus Chavez, who did quite well, I think, with the under-20s one time a few years ago now. Then he took over at Atlas, and he got like 3 months, and then he's out. And I worry that with Potro Gutierrez, the same thing will happen. He'll do this good things with the youth stuff. He talks well. He's obviously bright. He obviously knows the game, and then he'll just jump into Cruz Azul. Sorry, Jason. And
Hey, they won over the weekend. It's all right. It's all right.
But 6 months later, he'll be like thrown on the trash heap, and that'll be his whole like image of his career dented. I mean, I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not great. Look at Ramon Morales as well at Chivas. He was the assistant to Chepo, going nicely up through the. He was under 20s. He won a few championships with the under 20s. Then he goes to the assistant, and you could see him when you go to games on the sidelines. And when he had a press conference when he was the intern, he was absolutely brilliant. He absolutely ripped Angel Reina apart. For not running. He goes, if you don't run in my team, you don't. But you want someone with some strength like that, with a bit of personality.
Oh,
because
and there
a lot of
you
these
go.
coaches, like even Vucic, they're not very charismatic. Apart from maybe Tuca, they're quite boring.
You miss Piojo, don't you?
Yeah, I mean Piojo. Piojo now he should just go abroad, take something in MLS, do something crazy.
Do something where he can get some kind
Piojo in
of
MLS would be amazing.
But I guarantee you he won't do it. He'll go and he'll just take the next biggest job that comes along because he hasn't got the mentality. And the thing is, it's not easy for these players and these managers because he's just had a grandkid. He's in Mexico City. He's like he's a family man and all that, and he likes his comfort zone. And I think it's a problem in the Mexico game. Caixinha said it. Sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you ditch the luxuries to kind of further yourself. And
you can make the comparisons to the players as well. It's not just a manager thing, but it's a players. And you see all those players they live comfortably. And then you look at, for example, like one thing that stuck out in my mind was like Guardado with PSV, and you see there was like an interview with him when he first joined the team, and this like living situation that Guardado had, and it was like he was almost living in a tiny apartment that I would have lived in, like that. Actually, not. Still bigger than where I'm living right now. But it's like you got to take those chances. And even though Guardado, as big as he is, you got to take those chances, move abroad. And it's I think, as we've talked about before, it's not just a coach thing, it's a player thing. They got to take those risks and go abroad, even if it means not getting as much money as they're getting in Mexico.
I think we should all take a little bit of advice from the page of Tom Marshall, moving to Mexico City to cover football from Mexico. He left and he went abroad, and he's there now, a successful journalist. Cue in the music of The More You Know right now, and we're going. But we'll get to see where in a week, which from my sources that I'm hearing, I think a coach should be named this week, and I think it will be named this week. So hopefully by next Monday we'll be talking about our new coach. But who knows?
Juan Carlos Osorio.
Juan Carlos Osorio. Who knows? I always keep doing extensive searches on Google and on Twitter on Bielsa to see if anybody spotted Bielsa anywhere.
Well, extensive. You're there.
No, and here's why extensive, because I'm always going to see if anybody talks about him and mentioning it, and I'm talking like 3 or 4 times a day. And the last time I heard anybody talk about him, it was some kid last week in Rosario that took a selfie with him. That said, "Hey, Bielsa's at a grocery store," and he took a selfie with him. So, if I would think,
still alive.
it works because I'm like, well, he's not in Mexico at least, or to hear what's going on. But hopefully, we'll be talking about.
It's like when Zlatan went to an In-N-Out in San Jose, and everyone's like, "Dude, Zlatan's gonna be joining the Earthquakes, man! Oh my God, he's out eating hamburgers in San Jose."
Yes, I spotted in Mexico is huge.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, so we're just kind of, we'll kind of see how we do that. But let's move on. How's the chat going? Lots of conversation. I think they moved on from the Mexican national team, and they're already into their own little chat with Chivas, talking about the team still, and Vela and Goulet and everybody. So please join the chat and how we see things. But let's switch it over to the big news, and we talked about it. We broke the news here at Mexican Soccer Show right before it happened with Tom giving us his manic Monday of Chivas talk and what happened with all that's happening with Chivas. But Chivas winning this weekend, and not sure if you're seeing a new face, Armar Bravo. And let's go ahead and just talk about Chivas talk. And the circus that it is. Tom, you're there in Guadalajara, finally after a game, and Almeida coming in again from. What can you tell us about the management position there, about what's happening in the camp, the two sides that are fighting? Is it still Grupo Omni Life, Angelica being there? What's going on with the circus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Angelica has been involved in all this. I just, that's a separate legal battle at the minute. I think that what happened was that Vergara and OmniLife and people over there kind of went over Nestor de la Torre and Chepo de la Torre, and obviously from what I've heard, Almeida didn't even know when he arrived in Guadalajara that Chepo hadn't been fired, and he didn't even know that Nestor and Chepo were actually brothers. so he was, and he told the press this. So this is what he told the press. I mean, whether it's 100% true, I don't know, but this is what he actually said. So yes, so that's a disaster. But I think that now it's all calmed down. Chivas obviously won 2-1 against Querétaro, and I think that now what we learned from that game was that the players, are going to be professional about it. The players intervened to try and get Chepo to stay, to try and convince Vergara, actually in his house, that we want Chepo to stay. Don't do this to us. We're going to get out of this mess. And Vergara said no, and he brought in Almeida. And then, but at the end of the day, on Sunday, the players did a really good job. And Omar Bravo was, for me, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it's just it's like the Diego Costa of Mexico. He dives, he fouls, he talks to the referee all the time. He's winding the other players up. I think 3 of the 4 Querétaro defenders got yellow cards, and I think pretty much all of them were from Omar Bravo, just provoking him. So, yeah, we'll see with Chivas.
He also looks like he's 35 years old, too.
With Jose Luis Higuera coming in and bringing in Almeida in there, and having that mode where we've seen that Almeida was already kind of rumored with Santos before Paco, kind of parading around. I mean, I don't know if the promotores really want to make him in the national team. I mean, what has he also done with his pass field and Bansfield to get to Chivas? But now he's there. Any news on the manager position on in taking it that direction from Jorge Vergara? From what he seemed, you're not saying the right name.
Vergara's loving it. I mean, Vergara's just saying Almeida's the guy, but the thing is, he said that with John Van Chip as well, and it's the same kind of situation. It's just a guy coming in from a different country with no experience of Mexican football or Mexican players, and coming into a team which is all Mexican, and it's difficult and it takes a bit of time, and that's something that Almeida probably has not got. And I think that's always the problem with Chivas. But that's not just the problem with Almeida or with Chepo or it's the problem with every single Chivas manager. I mean, they're averaging over 2 managers a year now since Vergara took over, which is just a joke. I mean, if I speak to people in England, my friend was here visiting, and I was like, yeah, Chivas are on they've got 2 managers a year, and it's like, well, it's obviously just a joke of a club then. And I mean, I think that's the sad reality right now.
Poor from what the Chivas had. I mean, it looks like in the last 5-6 years we've always been the most popular club in the U.S. and also, but in what they're going through. Interested in seeing what he can bring and maybe turn things around. And we talked about it. Injuries. I thought Chepo shouldn't have been let go, and I think from a lot of people what they were saying, even the players. But we said, but Chivas, continuing, and obviously with the Clásico coming up, and who knows, with Clásico is a totally different game, regardless of who is playing well or who's not. We're going to be. I think it's still to see a Chivas that's competitive, but at the same time against an America that Nacho Ambriz is doing really good things there. So it's still a rival game. But we can talk about this week's Liga MX, and for that we'll go to Mr. Jason Markowitz, who has a great blog called Forward Thinking. Little plug-in right there. Definitely take a read it at FoodMex Source every week. If somebody else doesn't take the name and writes his own blog using Forward Thinking, a little inside joke there. Jason, what do we have to watch? What's going on in Liga MX aside from Cruz Azul winning? Give us the rundown.
Yeah, I guess other things happened. Well, there was Clásico Rayo. We amazingly haven't talked about that at all, which was quite the game on Saturday night. Which was kind of a strange one where Monterrey really had a very strong first half, and then that late red card in the toward the end of the first half, and it kind of completely changed the game. Monterrey sits back, and Tigres just, I mean, with all the attacking talent they have, find ways to get through there and start knocking them in. It's a tough loss for Monterrey because they played so well, but kind of in a tough position because they're dropping pretty far down on the table, have a long ways to go. But I still see them as a team that can make a run because they certainly have the talent. For me, they're such a, I don't know, it's it's a real disappointing because they've had moments this season, Monterrey, where they've played so well, but keep getting some of these losses that are just really disappointing. But I can still see them getting into that Liga as like that, like one of those last spots and really making a difference because they certainly have the talent to do it. But there was a couple of other big games this past weekend. America kind of took Morel to task, kind of put them in their place a bit. And you had, obviously, we mentioned Chivas. Toluca kind of having some trouble with Chiapas at home was a little surprising as well. And Atlas kind of giving it to Santos on Friday night, I thought was an interesting match. And we'll see what Atlas can do going forward. And finally, a good win for them. And I don't know. We'll see if they can build on that. Again, another team where the results haven't been in place with Matosas being there just yet, but hopefully for Atlas fans of Guadalajara, they start to turn things around. I think they probably can.
Yeah, I'd say I thought Tigres. I know Monterrey went down to 10 men, but I thought the way in that second half that they kind of just asserted that pressure was frightening. Because Monterrey, a decent team defensively, and Mohamed, really organizes his defense well. So I thought they were pretty frightening when they got going. I mean, I know they didn't start well, and then America, when it comes to the that second half against Morelia, I think those two teams more than any other, just past the halfway stage of the season. I think America and Tigres have got that extra gear. I mean, you look at the benches. There was America with Leon. I don't like Leon. I know what Weasel's doing there. Leon, I like him a lot. I mean, it's basically the bicampeonato team, minus Rafa Marquez. But the thing about Leon is I don't like the defense still. I think they're going to get caught on the defense, and I'd say the same with Pumas. I think both of them are impressive so far, but I've got my doubts about the defense. And put it this way, if Monterrey, like Jason said, sneak into that playoff, I'd take them over Leon and Pumas.
No one ever gives Leon any. But when
I'm still putting Pumas as my number 2.
We should have known Leon, who's only lost his to Juarez on a fluke. La Volpe's 10-1, 10-0 win, and what we're seeing out there. But interesting, obviously in the game, not so much to talk about, except for the Saturday game that everyone's looking for, Guadalajara, America, and it's always funny when we try to touch and talk about the any of the rivalry, especially the big Clásico, but we can't really talk even regardless if someone's coming in as a favorite, as a heavy favorite, or not winning. It's still not a for sure say. I don't know what your thoughts on the game on the rival game. So we'll go with Mr. Cesar. You're a Chivas fan. Are you ready?
No, we're not ready. No one's ready. Marco Fabian's gonna be out. No, are you kidding? Look at the form of America right now. It could be an ugly game for Chivas. I know we're all stoked. We got that win against Querétaro, but let's not forget that Fabian got that red, and Chivas were in the back foot for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes of that match. I think Chivas looked really good for the first 30 minutes. It was almost like they embraced the whole Almeida thing where just like, well, we got to be more attacking, and they looked really good for 30 minutes. And then after that, I think things kind of died down for them. I'm really worried against America. You look at the form the team's in, and as I posted on Twitter, America has only allowed 2 goals in their last 7 games. They haven't allowed a goal an away goal since the first week of the season. It's gonna be. I'm worried. It's gonna. Yeah, I guess it's potentially ugly. It's not even just America. You look at the schedule. Their next 3 opponents. I wrote it down. That's who they're playing against. I believe they're playing. It's going to be America, and I think they're going to be playing. Let me look this up. I wrote it down somewhere. And I believe the next 2 opponents after that are Monterrey and Pumas. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so it's going to be very, very difficult. The Querétaro one was good. but I'd be very surprised if they were to get a win in the next 3 weeks, and it's going to be a difficult time, and it's going to be a huge task for Almeida, and unfortunately, as you saw, like in the Copa MX match, in the loss to Morelia, there was already a ridiculous amount of Chivas fans, chanting "Chepo, Chepo, Chepo," in the press box where the box where Almeida was at. So I think he's going to have little patience, and it's going to be difficult for him.
Yeah, I think with the Clásico, I think if Chepo was still coach, they'd do exactly what they did last year in the same game, which was shut up, and it was a 0-0. And I thought Chivas played quite well then, and it was the same situation. Chivas were doing awfully, America were flying, and Chepo just decided, right, forget it, we're not going to let him play. It's going to be, I'm fascinated to see what Almeida does away in the Azteca, because there's this kind of idea, and I think it comes from Vergara, more than most people, that Chivas have to play in a certain way, and they have to attack. Now, I think if that happens on Saturday in the Clásico, it's a big risk. I think Almeida, it's going to be fascinating to see if he does that, if he sits back like Chepo's side would, and really fights hard and doesn't give America any space, because I think that's Chivas' best chance of getting something, and then hoping, for like what happened against Querétaro, from basically one of the first attacks, Chaton puts the ball through to Fierro, and Fierro crosses, own goal, Bravo there sniffing around. So I don't know, it's going to be fascinating, but yeah, it's a good point Cesar makes. You look at those 3 games, America, then Monterrey, and then Pumas away, and you think, this is a difficult period for Chivas and Almeida.
Yeah, it's worth remembering. I mean, Chivas, getting that win is important no matter who it's against, but it's hard to pick out a team that is kind of more disappointing this season than Querétaro at this point. Just this really disappointing season. Someone who should be with the talent. I mean, say what you want about some of these other teams at the bottom, but some of these other teams at the bottom just aren't very good. Querétaro's actually a pretty good team that just aren't playing very well. Consistently not playing well, but a team that should be getting more wins.
You're just used to saying that, Jason. It's a good team that's not playing very well. Just keep telling yourself that every weekend.
Quick thing with Querétaro, though, and it's what Vucic said after the game. And you know what Vucic is like. He's very calm. It doesn't sound like he's moaning. And I think it's a valid point. He's got Yasser Corona out, who's the leader of his defense. He's got Martinez out, who's the contención, the defensive midfielder, who's the club captain. And he lost Camilo Sanveso again before the season started. I think in every line of the team they're missing one player, and I think that shows. And let's not forget they reached the final last season. And so I think same with Santos, those teams that keep the season goes further and they don't have as much break, and I think they always tend to struggle.
Well, Saturday game, not a Sunday game, so that should be interesting. And also another, I would say Tigres.
Pumas Tigres.
Yeah, Pumas Tigres.
Sunday.
Yeah, Pumas Tigres will probably be on Sunday, or another good game. So a lot interesting games that are coming up. Fun to watch, but in the Liga MX, for all of you guys that are watching Liga MX, one of the most watched leagues here in the United States, I think, and in Mexico and in America. So lots of people are watching, but it looks like we're running a little bit out of time. We didn't get to the Europeos, but Cesar.
Yeah.
Europeos.
You want me to just say something about Europeos? Yeah, they're playing in Europe, and they let us down for the most part.
It was going to be a great, exciting weekend with everybody being there and playing. It looked like the debut was great, but then kind of wah.
Yeah, so we have. Let's say really quickly. So Chicharito, he got another start for Bayer. Of course, we're all very impatient with him. So every time he doesn't score, we feel like there's some sort of crisis.
Well, his minutes are going down. I mean, he's not. Every time he doesn't score and plays 90 minutes, us Mexican fans at least don't have the. But minutes per goal.
that's a judgment. But yeah, no, it's just his second start for Dortmund. He didn't have any goals. He had 2 opportunities, but he didn't score them. And I think he's going to realize that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get opportunities when he's not playing with Manchester United or Real Madrid. We had Tecatito and Layun starting for Porto in the rivalry match against Benfica, which unfortunately was more pushing and yelling and fighting than any kind of soccer that was going on the pitch.
It's a rivalry match? Pushing? Fighting? Classico? I mean, no.
It was the highlight of the match was before the match, where the Porto fans, they had this stifle where they had a dragon and they cut out the holes for the eyes and they had the flares like through the eyes of the dragon, and then they had smoke coming out of the mouth. That was a highlight actually. It was pretty cool. You should guys go look it up. Jimenez, he got a cameo in that match. He got he had the last 5 minutes. I don't think he even touched the ball. Hector Herrera was on the bench the whole time, so that was unfortunate to see.
Any news as to why he was on the bench? I mean, from coming in, scoring.
I mean, he said a couple weeks. I mean, I guess it was a few weeks ago now that he said he was openly admitted that he was tired. You know, he felt like he was all the travel with the Mexican national team with Porto, and he actually has had a pretty busy time. But at this point, I don't know why he hasn't given more minutes. But at the same time, he hasn't really done that well when he has been given minutes by Porto so far this season.
Well, the champions, he scored.
Yeah, I mean, it was no. I think it was in Porto. It wasn't Champions. It was I think it was his first. Yeah, and it wasn't even that impressive of a goal. It just kind of ricocheted and it kind of bounced off him. It wasn't as good as a goal that he scored for the national team.
I guess right. That's right. I don't know.
Yeah, Jonathan Dos Santos didn't have any minutes for Villarreal. Moreno played all 90 for PSV. They lost, and of course he injured another player, and that's the focus.
Great game for Moreno. Great game for Moreno.
Yeah, that's the focus of all of the world soccer right now is how Moreno loves to injure your favorite player.
Yeah, I know everyone went off in death threats and all this, which isn't warranted, but at the same time, if somebody did that to one of our players, we'd probably be saying a lot of stuff.
Oh, that's entirely true, especially a player like Shaw, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so he goes in there and they injure in the way that he did. Tom said it was a bad judgment on his call, but not to say it was intentional, right, Tom?
Yeah, I think the second one was in some ways worse, but I mean these things happen. I don't know. It's a difficult one to judge, but he probably should have been sent off for both of them, to be honest.
But then he scored a goal.
And he scored a goal.
Then he scored a goal.
Everything was okay, right? I mean, kind of like your guy, your defender, you autogol and score a goal. You're okay.
And then, other than that, we have Vela and Reyes, who both started in the loss to Espanyol. There was a red in the game. There was a red card for Sociedad, so Vela was substituted out. But it's good to see Reyes getting consistent minutes, which is what we've been wanting for so long. So I think even if he doesn't play that well, it's just good that he's getting consistent minutes.
Is Vela's form starting to be a worry?
I think so.
I think so, but who else would you...
When's the last time he scored?
I'm guessing against Trinidad and Tobago. I'm guessing that was the last time he scored, yeah.
And it looks... I keep saying something's up, but I just don't see as the fast Vela that we've seen before. And
he's a long way off the form he showed 2 years ago. Remember, I think last season he wasn't quite as good, but 2 years ago he was absolutely on fire, wasn't he? And I think he's definitely lacking something from them. I mean, I don't know, maybe he just needs to get into rhythm. Maybe he's one of those players that needs a good few games behind him first. But I'd say it is slightly worrying because we all thought as soon as Vela came back into the national team that he would be that automatic starter. And now, we're talking about the national team. We're talking about, him possibly not starting and being on the bench, which I think would have been unthinkable, a year ago or a year and a half ago.
Wow. Yeah, it's very, very true. Tough questions for you guys. Who's going to score more goals? I said this on Twitter. Tecatito or Chicharito? Cesar?
I think Chicharito. I think, like I said earlier today, just I think we're all any game, doesn't matter if you're a Mexico fan or yes, doesn't matter who you're supporting. Any game that Chicharito doesn't score, everybody just gives him a huge amount of criticism. But I think I think he's going to get more minutes. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for him, and I think Chicharito's going to score more in the end. I think he's actually. I think he's going to have a very successful season actually with Bayer. He hasn't had enough time to really transition over to the team yet. We just immediately want goals, but I think he's going to do well.
So it is. Interesting. All right, guys. Looks like we've been coming up at the hour mark. Great show. Great conversations in the chat. Joel saying that Hector Moreno avenging Chicharito. Kind of a revenge for what Manchester United did to Chicharito. Not only did he hurt a player, but he scored against him. So that's friendship right there. But we should joke around that. But it's funny stuff that comes on the chat.
I think you get those death threats from all those Manchester United.
All the death threats that were coming. But thank you, Mr. Jason Markowitz. Hopefully Cruz Azul keeps winning so you can keep it on the show.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
All right. Cesar Hernandez, glad to have you back from all your travels.
Yeah.
As far as all of us kind of getting together, Tom, I know you're going to be making your travels to the U.S. and then I'm sure to the Panama game, right? Somewhere in Mexico. Where's the game?
Toluca.
In Toluca. Not far from you, not far. But at the same time, Tom, thank you for coming on. Always a pleasure of having your presence here at the Mexican Soccer Show. And then all of you guys that are listening to us, we do have a Facebook page where sometimes we give tickets away. Who knows? Especially to matches. And here in the United States for all the games, get to meet Tom Marshall, and he gives you the tickets, and sings a song that does something which you can.
You sang a song, Tom.
I heard Tom sing a song.
Was it from your band back in the day?
So I think he did he did a song. But again, appreciate all you guys tuning in every Monday night here at the Mexican Soccer. Send us your questions, and I think it's going to be a great 2 weeks. Hopefully, capping it with a great win against the United States in this playoff match. If you haven't gotten your tickets, you're pretty much out of luck because now they're like $300 or $400. I think Pancho Villa's Army's got a limited amount, so if you're still looking for tickets and you live in LA, you're going out there, definitely get with Pancho Villa's Army because I think some of their deposits that they had for their tickets didn't go through with some of the fans, so I think they still have tickets. Otherwise, you look at StubHub right now, look at other where they're like $300, $400. Let's have a pro-Mexico crowd there. Jason making fun of my two different
I didn't catch that until Jason mentioned it.
So I did have it. It's because one of them's for the mic. We're not very high tech here in the show's headquarters. So I had this one for the mic and I had this one to hear you guys. As you can see, I had to pawn my TV in order to get some cash. So hopefully I'll be paying that back. Tough times. The economy, tough times. That's why
man.
The economy's great. But yeah, so I'll get the TV back and get the PowerPoint going. Sometimes you got to pawn to get some money back. So my money's working now, so hopefully we'll be going, guys. But great show. We're coming up on our 100th show. If you guys don't know, from about a year and a half ago. So. Yeah, so we'll give you guys a celebration of our 100th show that we'll be doing with the Mexican Soccer Show here on YouTube, and since we've been recording it, so it'd be kind of fun to do some kind of celebration. But to you guys, all that are in the chat, appreciate all you guys going and making sure that you're keeping us entertained and asking a lot of questions. Follow all of us on Twitter, and some of us that get on TV appearances like Tom, I guess. Definitely give us a follow on that. But last words, guys.
Watch Real Sociedad tomorrow. They're playing there's La Liga stuff going on tomorrow, so be sure to watch that. And then PSV Eindhoven's going to be taking part in the KNVB Cup, which is basically, their little domestic cup going over there in the Netherlands. I don't know if Moreno's going to play, but just some stuff out there for you guys to watch. And
you say KNVB.
KNVB. I don't know what it stands for.
No, but isn't that what's underneath their little crest?
Is that? I don't know. I don't pay attention to details.
Is that an airline, Jason?
Or maybe that might be the Dutch Federation.
Yeah, I think it's the Dutch Federation that's underneath the little crest on the little whatever orange line thing. Whatever.
I should know these things. So it's their Copa MX essentially.
Exactly. In fact, it's the thing. Tom from Guadalajara, thank you for joining on. All right, Jason.
Thanks, Tom.
In the East Coast of the United States, that's on the West Coast, and live here from cold Phoenix, Arizona. We're saying goodbye to the Mexican Soccer Show. See you guys next week on Monday night, 7 p.m. Pacific. Don't worry about Monday Night Football. Looking at my fantasy football, Andrew Luck is doing horrendous. But oh well, have a great week. And if there is a coach to be named, we'll jump back on, and I'm sure we'll have a reaction show if a coach is named in the next couple of days between now and Monday. So expect us to jump on the show and here on live. And there you have it. Tom's dog needs to be fed, so we got to go. Have a great week, guys. Talk to you later.
Later.